for any mages who watch this, I wanted to show this. Just so they can see that I know Preheat put out a video on this like a couple hours ago. And we won't spoil too much. But you'll see that Arcane is kind of just as good as Fire on this fight, which is a little ridiculous. And I think Arcane might be even a little bit better for actually killing the boss because funnel, which we will see, and which we've known. So to start this off, I'll tell you right now, I am not playing Arcane optimally. I have not played PTR or this game in 3 weeks. So I've done nothing on PTR. I set up my character like 2 hours before testing, and then I logged back out because I've got other stuff going on in my real life. Good stuff, but stuff. Well, I have not played PTR at all. I don't know any changes to the spec on how it really should be played. I'm using just the same weak auras from live. I just bought the gear from the vendor and YOLO'd it. So you're going to see what Arcane Mage can do, which everybody should know by now because Arcane Mage is currently doing it in Mythic Plus, and it's still real. And it is just as real in Raid as it is in Mythic Plus. So you'll see that I'm playing Spellslinger. I do the usual opener, evocation into missiles, straight into Arcane Surge opener without a Arcane Barrage because I don't have 4 charges. You'll see that real quick here. I didn't know whether I was supposed to press like Arcane Orb to get more charges, but since you're not playing, I wasn't playing high voltage, I copied talents from like Preheat's heroic run yesterday. He wasn't playing high voltage, so I'm not playing high voltage. So even if you Arcane Orb here, you don't get 4 stacks, which means you would have to Arcane Blast as well to get to 4 stacks so that you could barrage into this Touch of the Magi. I didn't like that, especially because at least with playing this for like a couple bosses, you get intuition procs way more now. And so you would just be like getting yourself to an Arcane Barrage before the Touch of the Magi, just so you could use it into the Touch of the Magi, but it wouldn't even be as strong into your like Magi Spark, your first Arcane Barrage, Arcane Blast, and Arcane Missiles. The first one of each of those into your Touch of the Magi does like extra damage. So you want those to be as hard hitting as possible, but you can get a harder hitting Arcane Barrage if you just wait like 2 casts into your Touch of the Magi because you're going to get an intuition proc. So I decided not to like try and get 4 charges before Touch of the Magi and just go straight into it. Again, this was like completely feely craft. I haven't simmed anything. I don't even know if the trinkets I'm wearing is right. I was just YOLOing it, but with how many intuition procs I was getting, I felt it just made more sense to just go straight into it and use my first Arcane Barrage in Touch of the Magi as an intuition clear casting Arcane Barrage. So you'll see me go into it here. I just casted Arcane Surge and straight into Touch of the Magi, literally 12 seconds, just casted it. And we're going straight into Arcane Blast. And I'm just using my clear casting or my Nether Precision into my clear casting. I do get PI. I don't know who was PIing me. They probably shouldn't have because most of the time I wasn't actually doing damage. But you'll see I get a ton of like intuition procs in here. I've already gotten 2, that's 3, that's 4. In one Touch of the Magi, that's 5 and 6. They just like double proc back to back. So you get a ton of procs here. Here, I believe I start barraging a bit, just to like get rid of stuff maybe? No, I didn't even barrage. I forgot to shifting power here, and then I realized too late, I think, so I don't shifting power before this Touch of the Magi, which I probably could have gotten some damage onto this ad if I had done that, so I probably lost some damage here. But it's fine, it's testing. This is really annoying. This knockback that the boss does will leave a pool under your feet where you land, and this is specifically where you land, which means if you try to blink in midair, it's still going to leave the pool where you blink to. So you kind of have choices. You can blink in midair so you can start casting again faster, but you're still going to have to move out of the pool on the ground. And you might potentially put the pool in a bad spot. So you want to listen to your raid leader and your raid plan on where you want to put pools. But you can blink midair so you can get down and start casting faster, and you'll have to move out of the spot. Maybe you double blink, right? You blink to land, it'll drop the pool where you're at. You start casting, you blink again out of the pool. or you can sit in it flying, not casting anything, maybe just throwing Arcane Barrage if you have an Intuition proc, maybe throwing one or throwing an Arcane Barrage anyway, and then using an orb, land, have it drop the pool, and then blink and be casting. You could also run Ice Flows. So when the knock is going to happen, you could just dump all your Ice Flows charges to be casting while you're getting knocked, and then you don't really care, but then you don't have Shimmer. Shimmer is not really required on this fight or anything, but I do enjoy playing Shimmer, especially as Arcane, because Arcane Blast is short cast time, so you don't get as much value out of Ice Flows as you do on like a Ice Flows Glacial Spike as Frost. So it's really up to you. I kind of did a mix of both. I think I blink this one, and I blink it super late, so it wasn't even like value, and then I walk out of it anyway, so it was just super bad. I didn't have another blink to double blink out of it. But then I go into my Touch of the Magi. Again, like, I'm not doing that much damage, right? I'm not even on the meters. I don't have it showing me all the time like I usually do on live, so I can't even tell where I'm at. I get this mechanic while I'm shifting power. So I have to like get over here because you want to point this mechanic at the adds. If you don't know how this works, you point this beam at the adds. The whole point of this fight is to break these adds out with the beam, so you kill them now when they're not doing anything, because at 2 minutes into the fight, the boss is going to break out all remaining adds. And then they'll actually do their mechanics when he breaks them out that way. So if you break them out with the beam, they don't do anything for like 30 seconds after being broken out or something like that. So you just kill them and they do nothing. This fight was a little too easy. It was way undertuned, but they can tune it up. But even with that, like, most of phase 1, you're just not doing anything. So it seems a little weird. The only difference between Mythic and Heroic is that on Mythic, these people who have these abilities that are going to shoot out orbs, the canisters are protected by a rune. You can see this rune. It just kind of orbits around. It shows you it's still protected. You have to hit the canister with one of these orbs first to break the rune. Then you have to hit the canister with the line mechanic after. So these orbs have to like hit these canisters to break their runes so that they can be hit by this line mechanic that me and Flamicius now have. So somebody had already hit this one earlier. I think somebody hits this one this time. So we just get over here and get behind the canisters. Important to note, for if you want to know the mechanics of this fight, this beam mechanic, this isn't a real line. Do not like get this confused with an actual like line that when it fires fast and it disappears. What it is this is a targeted path of where the boss is going to shoot an orb. It is a orb. It moves similarly as slow as these orbs. So if you see how slow these orbs are moving, that's how slow this orb moves. There it is. This is the one he fired at this guy. You can't see mine because it's on the other side of this. This is just an orb, slow moving, that will go and hit whatever is in its path. A player, this canister, or nothing. If it hits nothing, this orb only goes about 20 yards, and then it returns to the boss if it doesn't hit anything. So this is important. You don't have to be behind the canisters. We just were because we were just tanking the boss right next to it, so these adds could be in melee meat cleave when they get broken out. But you could be tanking the boss out here, and then you don't have to be behind the canisters. You can be in the path of the canister, but once the orb starts firing towards you, you just have to get out of the way so that the orb hits the canister. The boss also has to be close enough to the canister within, I think it's about 20 yards, because if it's too far, the orb will go out, it won't reach the canister, and then it'll come back in. You just wasted it. You only get 6 total orbs to fire to break out adds before all adds get broken out. There's 12 adds in the room, so at best you can break out 6 and kill them before intermission, where you have to fight all the other 6 when they actually do mechanics. Somebody's gonna have this boss solved, most likely. And again, it was super undertuned, so it was hard to really tell what was actually important. There's 3 types of adds. Mages cast, so maybe you want to break out as many mages as you can so you can kill them before you have to deal with interrupts. Like one of the other adds does a targeted attack on a player that also splashes AoE damage on everybody else near them, and I don't even know what the other add does. But yeah, back to mage things. So I shifting power, I blink over here, get my add thing out, and nothing really happens here. This is actually a key point though, so you have to remember timings for Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage is all about timings. You want to use your CDs as fast as possible, on time, as much as possible. However, you have to understand the timing flow of the fight to know when you want to use your CDs. So there's actually probably an optimization that you could do on this fight, which we've seen many times in the past, which is that Arcane Mage will mini burn on pull. I didn't do that this time, but I'm effectively going to force the same thing to happen here, because the ads are going to spawn at 2 minutes. That's like a hard thing. The boss just nukes open all of the ads at 2 minutes, and then they're all basically going to run to you and group up. You want to be blasting that. Arcane Mage is very important to be blasting that, not for pad, even though it's going to pad, but because Arcane gets insane funnel onto its primary target from hitting multi-targets. So, and you'll see it when I show you the logs after of what I mean for this. So again, I didn't do this perfectly optimally. You'd probably want to mini burn on pull. You can see that we didn't lust on pull this time because we were just dicking around because we knew this boss was super easy. So we were just going to lust on the first ad set. But you're going to want to mini burn on pull. If you have a 2-minute trinket, you probably send it on pull. I actually sent it a little late, so you'll see, again, not optimized. I don't get it in time. But normally what you would do here, since I big burned on pull, is you would big burn here. But I'm not going to do that, because I'm going to get my CDs up at about 118, because that's 90 seconds minus the 12 seconds for shifting power. So I'm going to get my CDs up, and I'm just going to send a mini burn, basically as fast as I can, so that I can get another mini burn in, while, like, before I need my big burn. So I delayed it a little bit. It could have been a little bit faster, and it would have been more efficient. One thing that is happening is this explosion is happening, which does the knockback, which drops your pool. Also, if you get knocked off the edge, you will just like die instantly, so don't do that. And you'll see me like blasting into this again. Like, I am nowhere on the meters. I'm doing no damage right now, right? And that's fine because I know what's going to happen soon. I get this mechanic. I was going to go in here to break shields, but I see there's already people in here. So I don't even worry about it. Like, they're going to break the ones we need. We can only break 2 of these anyways with the beams, so it doesn't matter if I break the other 4. There was no penalty for not breaking ads from their runes before you go into intermission. Maybe there will be on live, but that'd be really annoying because the rune's really big and there's ads over here. So trying to like hit those with orbs would mean people have to run super far. That'd be super dumb, but whatever. So you spawn these ads at about 145. Again, I have like no damage for this really. I'm just barraging, just doing whatever. I am making sure that I have at least 1 orb going into this next thing. I think I don't use any of these because there's no point. Boom, all the ads spawn. 158 on the details meter. It's 2 minutes exactly on the fight pull timer. My details meter is just behind because I hit the boss late. So I immediately go into evocation here. You'll see my trinket still has 6 seconds left, so that's not optimal. If I had used it like immediately on pull, this would be so much better, but whatever. We lust, I pop pot, everything else. I'll try to use my trinket as soon as possible. Arcane Surge, even Touch of the Magi was a little bit delayed from the Arcane Surge. It's fine, it's whatever. So I did Barrage there. So now what I'm thinking about here for Arcane is, I know everything isn't clumped yet. I don't know if I do it well here, but I was thinking about it, is I don't want to proc my Magi Spark explosion until everything is grouped up. Magi Spark is going to explode once you hit the boss with 3 ability, with 1 of each of your 3 abilities inside Touch of the Magi, which means you can delay it as much as you want by just not using the 3rd ability. So that's Arcane Barrage, Arcane Blast, and Arcane Missiles. So since I opened Touch of the Magi with Arcane Barrage, I've already used that. So I can use as many Arcane Barrages as I want now, and that's not going to affect Magi Spark. I've already got that one in. I use Arcane Blast here because I have another precision. So now I've used Arcane Barrage and Arcane Blast. I don't know if okay, so I just go straight into the missiles. So this wasn't perfectly optimal because these ads weren't in yet. It probably would have just been better to just spam a couple barrages to let these get in here, but I just send it anyway, and my Magi Spark's going to explode, do some damage. And after this, you're just rocketing off barrages. So you get all of your funnel damage from barrage. You want to dump as many barrages as you can with Nether Precision up, and just dumping barrages, dumping your Arcane Orbs. You're going to get Arcane Orb CDR from Spellfrost Teachings. It no longer procs Arcane Orbs. It just gives you CDR on your Arcane Orb. So you're going to want to get Arcane Orb on CD Look, I'm even having trouble getting it on CD because Orb Barrage is proccing so much and giving me so many procs. I haven't even used Arcane Barrage yet, and Touch of the Magi just ended. And now, now I'm using my my Arcane Orb. So, just looking at that one more time. If you notice there while I was talking, the damage meters looked a lot different after this, right? Arcane Mage's power is entirely in its CDs and using its CDs effectively, and Arcane Mage gets a massive amount of damage from having at least 5 targets up, and you get a ton of damage into your main target. So you're gonna see I just do my shit. I'm basically just spamming Arcane Barrage and getting a missiles every once in a while for nether precision. I got PI. I'm now on the damage meter. Hey, I'm 7th. Hell yeah, I wasn't even on there for the entire first 2 minutes of the fight. Wasn't even on the top. Now I'm just spamming barrages, even when I have no charges. If I have an intuition proc, spamming. Touch of the Magi explodes. I'm at the top of the meters. That is the power of Arcane Barrage, or Arcane Mage's Burst. Everybody should know that by now. That's how it is on live right now. There's nothing really different than that. Arcane Mage funnel is absolutely insane. You can see the things that Arcane Mages do in like last phase of Mugsy in Execute if you lust during Arcane Mage CDs below 35%. The damage they do is literally like double other classes. The first time I played Arcane Mage on that fight, I did like as much damage as 3 of our other DPS in the last phase on Mugsy. It's the same thing here, but when executed properly, it's not just pad is the thing. So like other people might just be padding on these ads. You'll see what I mean at the end of this fight, that it's not just pad when we look at the logs. So I'm now at the top of the meters at about 8 mil DPS. One thing to note on this fight, you have to be very careful. So you're blasting here, you're blasting all these ads down, Touch of the Magi's ending, right? You're getting all your stuff in. I didn't even get PI'd well into my Touch of the Magi, so that was, I mean, again, suboptimal for damage, but none of it really matters. This is over. I should shifting power now because the boss is going to do this knockback. Once he's started this knockback, probably not worth it to even start casting shifting power. I messed this up a couple of times on testing because you'll get knocked during shifting power and it'll fuck you up. So I see this. I know that I just don't want a shifting power till after this knock now, so I just don't, and then I hit it, and then we're good. I accidentally canceled it early, actually, because I was just being dumb because it's testing and suboptimal shit is happening, and that's fine. And then I'm going into Touch of the Magi here. And again, my shifting power timings are weird on this pull because I didn't even shifting power like on pull like I'm supposed to. So, but you know, none of it matters. As long as you have your big burst CDs for the 2-minute burns, basically. So the first one is going to be at 2 minutes, like exactly, well, like 2:05, but you basically start at 2 minutes. The second one is at 4:30. And that's basically because each P1 phase takes 2 minutes. And it takes about 30, the boss like timers give you like 30 seconds for the intermission phase where all the ads are spawning. So the next one is at 4:30 into the fight, which would then make the next one at 7 if the fight lasted that long, but it won't. So yeah, you're just doing this. There's nothing any different about this at all. Regular stuff. I'm just going through regular rotation here. I don't think I use another big burn here, actually. So this is where, like, yeah, so I don't think I use another big burn. I just use a mini burn. This is how absolutely insanely powerful this is. I've skipped a bunch of big burns now. So, like, my stuff is, like, all messed up. I could have mini burned on pull and then got mini big on perfect timings into the first phase. Instead, I did big, mini big, which is bad because double minis back to back, you have like no mana, so you're not really doing much damage at all on the second mini burn. It's much better to go mini big. Bro, Bagel, get out of here. I am elderly. So I've already like done really poor damage in P1 because I went big, mini big. And then out of that, I did a mini burn, and now I'm doing another mini burn. So again, mini back to back. I have very low mana. And I know this, so I'm barraging a little bit extra, and there's ads out, so I'm just hitting them. But I'm still at the top of meters. So I know I'm like a minute out from the intermission phase, which means I can't big burn. So maybe if I lined up stuff better and used my shifting power properly and didn't cancel my shifting power early, I might have been able to get another big burn, and this would have been even more insane. But I knew that, like, with fight timings on this, that I couldn't do anything else at this point. I also knew that I can't use this mini burn because I know that I'm about 20 to 30 seconds out from the other ad set. So I know that I don't want to use my mini burn here either. So I'm just sitting on CDs for the longest time. If you're paying attention, I big burned at 2 minutes, and then I'm not gonna big burn again until 4:30. So that's 2.5 minutes. That's 60 seconds of sitting on my CDs. That's very, very bad for Arcane Mage, right? That is something that you're never supposed to do. And obviously this is suboptimal. I shouldn't have done that. I could have worked out the timings better so that I didn't have to do that. However, here we are again. All the ads are spawning. I thought there were some ads behind us. That's why I turned around just in case I needed to kick something. There wasn't because we just cleared those, obviously. Here we are again. Now we're in execute. Boss is below 35%. I have trinket back up and I have all my CDs. So now we're in a very good spot, even though we've wasted 60 seconds of fight time not pressing CDs, which is absolutely horrible for Mage. I'm at 5.8 mil right now. We're gonna get an execute burn here. I purposefully like delayed my arcane missiles, but I also missed the cast for that, so it was suboptimal, but all the other ads are in except for this one now, so I cast it anyway to get my Magi Spark, and then we're just going off. Again, we're just spamming Arcane Barrage, making sure we're at 4 charges, dumping Arcane Orbs to get there. Boom. We just went up another mil. So while we evocate, we're at 1.6 billion. So we can get a look at how much damage we just actually did. Part of this also, like, bad casting was like input lag because it's PTR. Shit just happens. But yeah, we're just blasting. I do get PI again. Thank you, Priest, whoever was doing that. I still have no idea who that actually was, but you're my savior. We did 400 million damage in our Touch of the Magi window. So 15 seconds given the, like, evocation and arcane missiles and stuff. Probably 17 seconds or 18 seconds. 400 million damage went up 1 million DPS. And I mean, just perfect timings for Arcane Mage because the boss dies right after my burn. And that's all you could ever hope for. And now we end there. And so you might be thinking, this guy's a dick. He just padded on all his damage, right? He didn't do any boss damage. This man held CDs for 60 seconds on this fight, used horrible timings, very inefficient, just so he could be top, right? This guy's just the worst. And so we could take a look at, like, preheats numbers real quick after he has 8 mil on the details. Obviously that's more than mine, right? Because mine was 6.94. However, preheat was actually 7.2 because he was getting ogged. So he was 7.2. What was I at? 6.9. No og. Hooray. Very close to Frostfire with absolutely awful timings. Just the worst, right? Held CDs for this entire P2 at very suboptimal play. But I did it anyway. And then we say, okay, what was actually happening? Look at that. Arcane Mage was top of the boss damage. Even though I held CDs for full 2.5 minutes here. Full 60 seconds of holding CDs. I still ended up top of the boss damage. And I ended up second in ad damage. Why? Because Arcane Mage just does funnel better than everybody else in the game, which everybody knows from playing live right now. Arcane Mage just dominates Mythic Plus. You do all of your routes around how to keep ads on top of bosses or keep pulls going for Arcane Mage so that you can funnel into the target you want to kill. So even though I held CDs like a madman, and nothing was optimized, and I had no idea how to properly play Arcane. I don't know if I was barraging at the right time or using orbs properly, whatever. Yeah, I did what is that? 4% less damage than Preheat, a very, very good mage playing Frostfire. And Arcane's friggin' easy, honestly. I find Arcane very simple to play compared to the other mage specs for a raid leader perspective, because you don't have to react to procs, which is very useful when I'm raid leading. So I can just focus for my 17-second Touch the Magi Arcane Surge window every like 45 seconds or every 90 seconds, and then just like AFK, and none of the rest of my damage matters. And you end up topping boss damage and like second overall in AoE damage. And we can go more specifically to this burn. I think he started there-ish. Go in here, cast. When did I actually cast Arcane Surge? Right there, 206. And then Touch of the Magi was cast at 208, so Touch of the Magi would have ended around 220. Okay, so 206 to 220. I'll go a little bit further, 224. Yeah, so there you go. This was the burn damage during Lust with the ads up. 37 million. I want you to note, this Boomkin is doing the like tier set bug thing, which is why he's so much higher than these two Boomkins. So even compared to a class that was bugged, I'm end up doing 20 to 30% more damage during this burn phase. Arcane is kind of nuts like that. And since the ads are only up for that time window, they're not constant, it just makes it a perfect Arcane Mage fight as long as you can fit the timings to the fight. So, I think this fight's going to be pretty dang good for Arcane Mage, as I've shown here. With completely suboptimal timings, I'm still able to do massive damage to both the boss and the ads. I think that's the important part. Where other specs might do more overall damage, they might do more damage to the ads. I don't think any of them are going to do more damage to the boss unless tuning changes, right, as PTR. But just Arcane's profile is obviously very, very good for a situation like this where you only have 6 ads during that burn phase instead of like 15 ads. If it was 15 ads, this would be a different story, but 6 ads is 1 higher than Arcane's max target limit. So you're like in a golden spot. So yeah, I know Preheat put out a video about how insane Frostfire is. It is very good. He did more damage than me. He did about 300k more. But don't sleep on Arcane. This was a super suboptimal pull. Winged it. First time playing PTR was today. And still within like 300k, within 3% of Frostfire on one of the best mages in the world. I would take that any day. So, yeah.